Januszka bloody Feldstra is in a lot of trouble. I'm telling you, you know? Like, so here's the thing, right? She comes to me last year. For those of you who didn't know, last year I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she says, would you like to give a last lecture? And I'm like, but it was okay because I was like, to here on steroids. You know? They give you steroids, goes with the chemotherapy, and it's like, you know what? I rule the world. Last lecture, I'll do 5. But Januszka, she goes, no, take some time to think about it. No, I'll just do it. And that's okay, you know. And then later, a few weeks later, she says, you know, here's a link to this other guy who did this once. Yeah. And then I'm looking at it going, hang on, I'm not dying. That's where it stops. I mean, they cut mine out, they put it in the incinerator. I'm okay, look at it, see the hair? See the hair? All right. You like my hair? Everybody cheer for my hair. It's so good. All right. So, you know, then I sobered up. You know, they took my drugs away. I said, oh, look what she's done. She's landed me in a position where I have to impart, like I have something to say. I'm only 47. I'm so not near my last lecture. And now what's going to happen is I'm just going to basically tell you all the stories I've been telling you for years, except you all get it all at once. I'm sorry. So this is a talk by me, about me, and actually partially for me. I like this. I finally get to go off topic without it affecting my course evaluations. Yes, well, yeah. I wrote stuff. I'm trying to read it, you know, because I must write. Yeah, so I am actually nowhere near my last lecture. All the same, there are some things I always want to tell you, and I think occasionally I do, but I sort of hope you don't notice. And that's because me and Kim and Anton and all the other people who teach here, all my colleagues, we actually got sucked into that whole pitch about LAS and UCU and how you guys are going to be the new citizens. You're going to go out there and lead the whole big world. You're going to make it better. We actually believe that. I get that you all think that's kind of stupid. It's all a bit like, could she get over herself? You see, the problem is that if you're going to buy into that, if you get sucked into that, then you actually expect your students to turn out to be something more than just another student. So, you know, feel the pressure. So I can tell you some stuff that I think you should do, know, and this is my forum, and now you have to listen. So, well, before we get there, how about I like things to be clear, right? It's a chaos inside my head. You have no idea. I mean, I have a colleague, Patricia Post, and I am certain that inside her head there are like 1,000 little compartments, and everything in there is tiny, including the bit that goes, "I must be a nice person today." It's full, it's tidy, and it always works. It never breaks down. My head's not like that. I like things to be clear. I like to know where I stand. My utopian world has 2 colors, and they are black and white. That's my world. And see, the thing is, I think you're all a little bit like that too. I mean, how many times do you ask me in class, you know, is closer a verb or an adjective? Well, you know, depends. No, but what's the answer? You know, I mean, high frequency noise in the signal at 300 hertz, is that a sup or a shup? And I say, I don't know, go record Crystal Lutz and come back and tell me. Like, no, I want the right answer. You say, well, is quoting better than paraphrasing? Is a table better than a list? See, I think you and me, we have this in common. We actually all want an A. So where's the right answer? Well, I started looking for the right answer a long time ago. Here we are. I got 3 of them, 3 brothers. Things a 6-year-old knows. A mother's place is not in the home, it's in the wrong. Your big brother, especially if there's another one between you and him, has access to truth with a capital T, no matter what Cora says. And a cookie jar. Who am I going to ask, help me with my geography homework? It's it's no competition. It's not my mum, it's my big brother. Things I learned from my big brother. I kid you not. The River Rhine joins onto the Osseras. Dogs unzip their fur. Dogs' noses are made of rubber, and they're replaceable. You can get upstairs with DIY. Here's our dog for some context. I so believed this. I went into school and I told them this. No, really, I did. But 12 years later, I'm 18. We're on a campsite in Munich. The Irish, they've just left the country en masse and they've gone off to earn their school fees. We didn't get school fee, guys. Let's not talk about the long studio. I'll tell you, campsite, tent, 3 months, 6 years in a row. So, yeah, it took me 6. But I did masters. Whatever. 12 years later, there's this lad on the campsite. He's so Irish. He's as Irish as 10 things in a bag marked deeply Gaelic. And he says, James Whitler, tell me, do you see them towers? Anyone here been to Munich? You ever seen them? See them towers? They're fucking huge. They're BMW towers. That's where all the lads work in BMW. I'm like, oh, that's actually not true. I work in BMW. I put the cables together in that. It's a huge big factory and it's like way out somewhere by Schwabing. And they go, oh no, there's all the big fellas in the suits work there, you know? Suits. It's Germany, right? It's Germany. The Germans are very sorted, you know, when it comes to work for the Germans. They're all sitting there in the towers. And them towers, they rotate so that everybody gets an equal space of time in the sun during the day. I'm not kidding you. I went into the factory the next day, I told my boss. It wasn't true. 25 years later, 31, I have fallen in love with a man that I trained cosmonauts with in Russia. I've got to tell you that story, but another time to fit into it. I slipped it in because it's very cool. And I'm in the Netherlands, like, you know, what's with this country, where are the mountains? I'm in the Netherlands. I've never been here before, and I'm like, they only have art, don't people write books there? But that's how much I know. But they have windmills. How about this? In the Netherlands. I bought it. The guy's a physicist, they don't lie. Well, you know what happens when the right answers are wrong, you know? You get detention for barefaced cheeky lies in school. I did. Right. Awesome. How dare you? The nuns don't like that kind of stuff. You get laughed at by your factory bosses, all other immigrant workers, and your friends. Your future partner wonders whether future is the right adjective. That's his only insight into linguistics, and I get that out of the way. So I do understand that you guys would like to have the right answers. But just in case you don't really know what I'm talking about, in terms of my linguistics classes, I find this very cool. You kind of knew this, didn't you? Like we have the ideas of homonymy and polysemy. And the idea behind homonymy is that you can have 2 words sound like the same thing, light and light, but they mean different things. One means not heavy, and the other means like that stuff. But you can also have the word mark. You can mark an exam, you can leave your mark, you can have a mark of quality, and those things all kind of, they're somehow related in meaning, somehow, sort of, kind of. And they're polysemic. Pen for sheep, pen for writing, they're homonyms. Hooker for prostitute, hooker for a Galway hooker, it's kind of both. Just in case. But then you have flower and flower. You ask any sensible English-speaking, native English-speaking person, flower and flower, and they go, oh yeah, homonym. But see, Dutch people, they kind of look at that and they go, I think that's polysemic. And you're like, yeah, you don't know how to speak English. They go, no, I do. Oh, I got an 8, baby, yeah. Oh, what's polysemic about that? Like, one is white powder, you make bread with it. The other thing is like, you know, all pretty and has petals. And it's like, yeah, it's the Dutch word, bloom and bloom. And you tell this to the class and they go, yeah, but what is it? Is it homonym or is it polysemic? And you go, actually, it's however it feels. Crane, bird, crane, your neck. Polysemic, homonymic. Most people say homonymic unless you happen to know that a crane is a bird with a really long neck. So it's like, however it feels. It's like, well, it depends on what you know. And the class is like, tell me the answer. I was like, I don't know. There's what's a dialect? Cantonese, Wu, and Mandarin are all dialects of Chinese. There's not a linguist in the world who thinks that's true. They're not mutually intelligible. They have different tone systems. They have different grammars. They've got different words. But that's about creating national unity. That's a political issue. That's not about, something linguistic. Frisian and Dutch are different languages. Did you notice everybody's really quiet now? If only the international students would dare to go, really? It's all about identity, isn't it? Serbian and Croatian are different languages. But they kind of were, and then they weren't, and then there was Yugoslavia, and it was like, mix. And then they were again, and then there was war, and now they're not again, and now they're really going far apart. They're getting their own words, they're getting their own grammar, they have different writing. One uses Cyrillic, the other uses Latin. So which one's a dialect? And the class is like, so which one's a dialect? It's like, well, I don't know. Can we just not talk about dialects? I don't really know what they are. Dialects are stuff that people just kind of make up as they go along. And say, if it suits me, it's a dialect. If it suits me, it's a language. I don't know. They can fight in the bar. They can fight in the bar. Serbian and Croatian, the same language. I didn't say that. What is a right answer then? What does it mean? I'm not sure that teaching is about giving you right answers. Is the right answer the truth? Or is it something we've been told? Teacher told me. And if it is, then that means it's something we don't have to think about anymore, huh? It's the right answer, huh? I know what the right answer is now. I don't have to think about that. Teacher said. So I don't kind of have to take any responsibility for that. It's just how it is. Is that what you came to college to figure out? I don't think so. Let's look at the truth. All kinds of different ways of looking at the truth. Here's an Irish way of looking at the truth. In Ireland, this dates back to the Druid system and Brehon law, you have Shawnathy with storytellers, maintaining the collective memory, the community knowledge, the history, the identity of the people that are there. In a way, they're charged with conveying the truth. They work very closely with the lawyers who are just above them. And they have the notion that there's factual truth and there's story truth. And bullying people with facts is unseemly, it's ungainly, it's not cool. If you can't convey your truth with a good story, then shut up already and go get another job. You're not a very good Shawnathy. There is no truth with a capital T, said Flores. Fiki would beg to differ. So for kids, truth and reality are not often the same thing. And let's face it, we tell them a whole lot of stories. Think of the stuff you tell Santa Claus. How can you look your child in the eye and say, trust me, I'm your mother. I mean, really. And then kids, they tell it right back to you. And then you've got to go to school and say to the teacher, no, we don't do weird shit at home. No, he's just very imaginative. So for kids, truth is a whole different thing altogether. And if it's something we've been told, oh, the power of science. Oh, goodness me. Well. Who was out doing their referencing for the ASAP course this week? So we went off looking for what are reliable sources, how many people have cited them. Well, let me throw a spanner in that works, and don't tell Jocelyn or I'll be in so much trouble. That's my other big brother. Isn't he gorgeous? He's the one in the middle between me and the really big brother. He's the one I threw the ashtrays at. but turns out that he's actually really nice and sensible and stuff, and kind of sort of my hero, like my other two brothers also. So, from another brother, I have the idea of beware of half-truths, because you might have gotten hold of the wrong half. And here's the thing that's about. I was writing my PhD. I did a PhD on voice quality, and I spent a couple of years in Nijmegen looking at videos of people's vocal folds vibrating and trying to catch them at moments when we figured that they were closed and deciding, are they fully closed or is there a leak? Does the air leak through? And we figured that I was doing it all wrong because I was finding that men leak as well. But you see, we know that women have leaky voices, not that men have leaky voices. And at some point the surgeon goes, no, you're fine. Men have leaky voices. Oh, well, if you knew that, why'd you tell me and make me look at all those stupid videos? And he says, well, I don't know. That's what they kind of said in linguistics you were supposed to do, huh? Well, but if you knew this, why don't you tell the linguists? And he said, well, you know, I mean, they have their ideas. Yeah, they so do. Look at this one. The John Laver, he's a phonetician in Edinburgh. He works on voice quality, and let me tell you, he's a grand old man. He belongs to the old grey men of the academic establishment. And he says, this is in his PhD, like, you can mess up in your PhD. You mustn't get it too wrong or they don't give you a degree, but you can say stuff that you later are embarrassed about. And he says, the use by some popular female singers, right, equals all women in the world? I don't think so. And film actresses of whispery voice. Simulates the effect of phonatory quality of the change in consistency of the mucal lining of the larynx that takes place during sexual arousal. I want to tell you he did not have an in-text reference. And that's okay, you know, you're like, yeah, what's she getting up about? I couldn't fit this on the slide, I have to read it to you. 10 years later, Tony Bladen and Caroline Henton wrote about breathy voice, and they said, it may not be too speculative, read bollocks, to assume a physiological basis for the association between breathiness and arousal. That is not to say that British women using a breathy quality are actually aroused, rather that they imitate the voice quality associated with arousal. If a woman can manage to sound as though she's sexually aroused, she may be regarded as more desirable, or with greater approbation by a male interlocutor, that means someone she's talking to, than if she speaks with an ordinary modal voice. At an ethological level, breathy voice may be seen as part of the courtship display ritual, English ladies. As important as bodily adornment or gesture, a breathy woman can be regarded as using her paralinguistic tools to maximize her chances of achieving her goals, linguistic or otherwise. And if if you follow this, you'll see that in gender literature, you know that stuff that's supposed to be about emancipation, right? Women are not sexual objects, and we're not going to make sweeping generalizations about them. Watch them! It's in all the gender literature. And there I am, I'm writing my thesis. And I'm thinking, I better put this in because, you know, it's in all the literature. It's in gender literature, it's in voice, it's in everything. I've got to go in there. And I'm writing it, and I think, no, I'm thinking, mucus in the throat during breathy voice. And I just can't get the setup. I mean, what is it like? Would Madam lie down and have an orgasm, please, and then go? You know, it's got to be me. I'm going to ring my brother. He's a doctor, and he's married to a woman who's a GP, and she's a professor in medicine, and she does all kinds of women's stuff. And I'm going to ring man. And I ring my brother, and he goes. And he said, can you imagine the experimental paradigm? I said, no. And he says, yeah, this is like, you know, one of the old grey men in the establishment having a little fantasy on a Tuesday afternoon. I said, but it might be, but it's gotten its way into all of the literature. And he goes, yeah, cool. He says, you should write something. I wasn't brave enough. So yeah. Is the truth something you're told? Is that the right answer? Out of this, an amalgam of my biggest brother and my middle brother, I have my little brother. He's like king of the amazing but true. He begins stories with amazing but true, and then he tells you something. 50% of the time it's true, 50% of the time it's not. It's always funny. Anyway, that was my brother. Something we don't have to think about anymore. Well, once you have the right answer, you don't have to figure it out anymore. You just have to reproduce it in the exam. That's okay. They did that years ago. You know, the world is flat stuff. World is flat. World is flat. You look out your bedroom window, you go, yeah. That's it. It's more efficient to leave the car engine running if you stop for a short while. Yeah. For you. Yeah. System Earth isn't so happy about it. Nor your neighbours. Or your kid walks past these doors, stats! And these are nice truths, you know, not kind of nice stuff to be told. They're like, I can get with those. More true things in life. It's a Dutch expression. Een naaste buur is beter dan een verre vriend. Yeah. A neighbor who's close by, better than a friend who's far away. And you know, I found that a really Dutch thing when I came here, because like, you know, I came from Ireland and I miss my friends, and I still do. After 14 years, I miss them all. I really do. And they'd say this kind of stuff to me. What's your problem? You live in a lovely area. You have loads of friends in Amersfoort. Loads of friends in Amersfoort. What's that about? Naast de buur is beter. And then I got to think about my dad. So my mum died in 1996. Actually, today is the anniversary of her death. And my mum was the sister of a guy called Frank Prendergast. And he was a Labour politician, and he was the mayor of Limerick. And in a place like Limerick, that's kind of important. And she and my dad lived in a little cottage in the middle of nowhere on the edge of Limerick. And my dad, you gotta know, was a Northern Ireland Protestant. He was as orange as a Dutchman, except for he married my mother, and my mother was Catholic from the south. So there he is, an isolated proddy out in the woods in nationalist rabid Limerick, and his wife dies. And I'm not kidding, it was a cold and windy day, and the rain was like hammering down. It was that kind of rain that when it blows into your face, it hurts. And the priest was there in the church. We are gathered here today to regret the passing of Helen Prendergast. Hang on, her name was Orr. Her name was never Prendergast. She was Prendergast before she got married. She decided to change her name. Hello? Helen Prendergast, the sister of Frank. Okay. Frank, our thoughts are with you and with your brothers and your sisters. Okay. And soon they're going to get to the bit about my dad and the kids. No, didn't happen. That was kind of weird already, but I think my dad was very upset because his wife was just dead, so I'm not sure he picked up on all of this. So then we moved up and we got in the cars and they drove the body and we went to the graveyard, and you know, it was pretty sad. And then my dad really did get it, and then he was really, really unhappy. And I don't know if you've been to funerals, but usually what happens then is like everybody comes around you, puts arms on your shoulders or around your back, and they support you and stuff. There was him, there was me, there was my 3 brothers, and there was the rest of Limerick. And there was the local politician, and it was my Uncle Frank. And it was like us and them. And they kidnapped my mother. They kidnapped her. And my dad, you could see him physically. And then suddenly, I'm going to start crying. Suddenly, we were walking, like you can imagine, this is my dad, he was a big guy, he was my dad, he was like my dad. And now he was like this. And it was me and my little brother and 2 big brothers, and we're linking arms and we're holding him, and we're all walking in a line with our heads down against the rain. And we see this line of black shoes walking towards us. And we're kind of forced into a stop. And we look up. And we see his mates from college. And they've come from South Africa, and they've come from Edinburgh. And they've come from England, and they've come from Wales. And they've come from Scotland. And they've come from Australia, because Helen was dead. And Johnny would be unhappy, little Johnny. And I was going, they're calling my father Little Johnny? And my brother goes, shut up! And his friends. And they come in and they literally, they kidnap my father. And we're sitting there going, Jesus, they kidnapped my father, they kidnapped my mother. What do we do? Shut up. Okay. And that's one of those situations where, you know, my parents, they had great neighbors while they were alive, but somehow, on the really important moments, this is not true anymore. It's not true anymore. Your friends are really important. And all of you will have friends who will be very far away pretty soon. But from what I hear from our alumni, they're going to be your friends in years to come. And you've got to be there. You know, when they get married, and when they have kids, and when they break up, and when they do something stupid, and when they get their PhD, and when they're in prison, and think about those truisms when you're thinking about. But are your friends people who will look after you in times of trouble? Actually, I've got a couple of great mates. Kira and Roisin. Here's Kira. Oh. Here's Kira. So last year, there's me, you know, no hair, fat as a fool, sick as a dog. And they ring me up and they go, do you not want to do something nice? Sure, yeah, they live in London, she lives in London and Roisin lives in Ireland and like I'm in Amersfoort and I'm sick. So, you know that place you're always talking about, that Italian place, you know, kind of groovy vegetarian culinary whiz thing? Let's just go there. And okay. So it happens and they bring me there and, you know, and we're out walking and I'm feeling a bit sort of, I think I've had enough of this walking, I'm kind of tired. And Kira sees this tree that's got these kind of cotton blossomy things falling down on the ground. She goes, oh, it's so cool, I have to lie in that, take my picture. And I can't help myself. I go, Kira, I don't feel well. And she goes, we're here to look after you. We're here because we're your friends and that's our job. I'll take the picture. I think that's partially why I love her. She is there, but there's none of that kind of, oh, are you all right, love? I think I like that. Roisin, on the other hand, she's a different kind of official altogether. I think it was Mark Twain, except if it wasn't Mark Twain, it was, you know, Oscar Wilde, Winston Churchill, but I'm pretty sure it was Mark Twain. He said, the proper office of a friend is to side with you when you're in the wrong, because let's face it, everyone's on your side when you're right. Well, it depends. See, Roisin would say, sometimes we've got to read you the riot act. This is her face. This is the face that goes, Jesus. Actually, I remember this moment. This is where she was having a discipline moment with her child. And, you know, she was clearly worried that, you know, she had to do it right. And I think I was saying something about, you know, well, psychological theory would suggest, and she goes, shut up intellectualizing everything, please. Yeah. You need friends like that because otherwise you become a plonker. And of course, you know, that Shanachie stuff and the Irish thing, there's story truth as well. So, my kids, bad stuff happens to them, they get beaten up at school, or they lose their books, or, you know, stuff. And we have always said, don't worry, it's going to make a great story later. That's a standard response. I mean, and we're not weird in this. There's a whole lot of people on that little island the other side of England, they do that too, eh? It's going to be a good story later. And I think, and I'm preparing her for good things in life. She'll be able to look at her problems, face up to them, see them possibly as a positive thing. Well, one day she said it back to me. This is her. That girl has more wisdom than any of you. So my dad's dying. This is a happy story, isn't it? I'm 47, that stuff happens. So I'm in the plane, I've gone to Ireland, I've visited my dad, and he's not so well, and I brought Tess with me because she loved him and she had a great bond with him. And, and it's a rugby weekend in Ireland. Yeah, and the rugby team from Scotland are in Ireland. And I'm coming back to the Netherlands and I'm with Tess and it hasn't been great, you know, it hasn't been great. My dad was sick and I'm not, you wouldn't think it of me, but I'm not very patient sometimes. And I hate that whole stuff about checking through security. I hate that. So I'm there with Tess and I'm doing my very best to keep it down, keep it down, keep it down. You know, Tess is saying, like, Mom, why do you have to take your shoes off? It's the Americans! She's like, well, we're in Amsterdam, or we're in Dublin, we're going to Amsterdam. Okay. So she can kind of sense that she better keep it down. Just let me go with this. It's going to be all right soon. And we get to those electric port things, right? You have to go through the electric port. I'll share a secret with you. I was wearing an underwire in my bra. They just had new people on the electronic ports that day. I walked through and I'm waiting for the beep. There's always a beep. It's always going beep, beep. Madam, you know, can we scan you? Please? Be my assistant. It's my bra. But like I'm in that kind of a mood, you know. I don't care. It's my bra. What I don't realise is that the entire Scottish team is behind me. Get them off, lassie! Tess is there beside me. She goes, Mum's going to tell a great story. There was another one like that, you know. I mean, you know, where is your dignity when you need it? I was telling Dan this the other day. So I was in China. It was my delayed honeymoon. So I managed to be too sick on my honeymoon to actually go on one. So when Tess was little, we gave her to her grandparents, who said, the two of you are going in a plane to China, and I have your only child. What if you both die? We've got an extra child, it's okay. We get on the plane, we go to China, we do the stuff, we go to the conference, present your paper, and then went down to the south and we went walking around the mountains. I didn't know anything about China. Way down south, up in the mountains. And it was lovely, jungle, rainforest, beautiful rice plains, tea plains, it was amazing. And we stayed with people in the villages, and these people, I think they had never seen white people before. I'm not kidding. And our guide told us that, and I actually believe him. It might be like a BMW Tower story, but I actually think it could be true. Because they found us fascinating. They couldn't leave us alone. And they were the minority people, so it begins with M. They're not the Dai people, because they're the valley people, they're the people up, but whatever. So we were up there, and our guide takes us down. So it was me, my husband, and my guide, just the three of us. And we come down the mountain, and we have to cross over this rope bridge, across a huge big river. And the rope bridge is pretty high. See, now in my memory, it's as high as the rope bridge in Pirates of the Caribbean 2. But in actual fact, it was probably only about 20 meters. But let's stick with Pirates of the Caribbean, it's better for the story. And I have vertigo. And I'm there with my husband, and I mean, I actually only knew him for 5 weekends and 1 week before we got married. So, you know, we haven't been married that long, and we've also managed to produce a baby in all that time, so like getting to know each other didn't really do very much. But I sort of found it important that he would think I was cool, right? You get why? I mean, I have to live with him for the rest of my life, so it would be good if he thinks I'm cool and not plonker, right? Roisin Plonkergard, it's going to be okay. Right, China, that was cool, it was my idea, it was really cool. Bridge, I can't go up that bridge, it's ridiculous. And I kind of have to, because the guide is already halfway across, and David goes, you want to go first? No, you go. Okay, over the bridge. And I take the step onto the first plank, like it's ropes and the planks between them. They're loose planks, there's like this much between them. And the plank wobbles like a cat. And I think the guide is going really carefully and slowly, and Dad is going really carefully and slowly, and I'm calculating how many planks are between them, and I can see that the rope bridge is actually over land at the end. And I think, I'm going to crawl, they're not going to look back. By the time we get to land, they're not going to see me. Hands and knees, right? I mean, how uncool is this? If they turn around now, my husband will think I'm stupid, and the guide will think, well, oh, these crazy Westerners. But it's okay, we get there, and the guide, and just as the guide is about to get to the end of the bridge, and get over the land, and I go, stand up now, if I fall now, it's okay. We get across, and I turn around. And the whole village where we stayed the night. But you know what? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. If you have a whole lot of personal dignity, you cannot teach phonetics. Okay. So where does this leave us then? You know, we're kind of worrying about truth. But what is truth then? Is this something we can just make up to suit ourselves? Hey, don't know I crawled over that bridge. I'm really not. Come on. So Kite Man has this great song. Stand for something, pull for anything. If you don't pull for something, I can't remember the words. But whatever about it, I think it's actually a cool thing. See, there are all these ways of constructing some kind of a truth around everything you do. And you want a right answer, and you find an answer that you believe in. Either it got told to you, or you read it in a book, or you came to it by yourself. You can't really just make it up, you know? But you said we had to do exercise 13. No, I said 15. I said 15. No, you said 13. No, I said 15. True for me. Can't we do that? You go somewhere, you've got to find things to believe in. And you've got to find a way to believe in them. Because it's not trivial to believe in stuff. You have to believe in stuff in order for your truths to be true, I think. So in the classroom and in life, we got to start with other people's right answers. You can't be working it out for yourself from the very start. And one year after Buff's famous words, 100 level anthropology, I don't want their opinion, I want them to learn what's in the book. She has point. She has point. You kind of have to get the jargon down. You have to know how to talk the talk. You have to know what the basics are of the discipline before you can start figuring out stuff for yourself. Soon enough, we have to figure it out for ourselves. We've got to find our own truths. And they don't have to be earth-shattering. Just having them is enough. So it doesn't have to be that you know how to solve the problems in Syria. It's okay if you don't. It doesn't mean that you have to understand the principles behind, you know, organic farming. You don't. It's okay. It's all right. If you're someone who's found a couple of basic truths, like, I am not going to steal my roommate's cheese from the fridge. Yes, yeah? Because I think that's a bad thing to do. Bad. If just with the little stuff, the local stuff, the small things, you can find your own truths, believe in them. Having them is enough because it will mold you as a person. Being a very big person and knowing all about organic farming and knowing all about how to solve the problems in Syria and, like, you know, Israel, here I come. It's going to be okay. That's not cool if you steal your mate's cheese. Okay? You may have weaseled your way into some nice big power position, but actually that's not what me, Anton, Kim, it's not what we want you to do. We want you to not steal your mate's cheese, and it will all come from there. If you don't like the guy whose cheese you're not stealing, don't steal his cheese. And if the things that you believe in, if your principle match everybody else's, that's lovely. That's nice. You chose nice, easy ones. That was sensible, you know. But sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't. What are you going to do then? What about when everyone else says you're wrong? Well, actually, mostly nobody says you're wrong, but you know what they're thinking of. Can you be friends with or respect people who don't hold your principles? Or who hold diametrically opposed principles? I didn't say this already. I'm 47. I'm still struggling with this. But actually, I think you have to. And one of the things that I think about that is my PhD, my glorious PhD, with me change the world. So let me tell you, this is like you're gonna feel like this in your thesis, you're gonna feel like this in your master's, you're gonna feel like this in your PhD. It wasn't going anywhere. I was down the black hole, and I was like, I can't come out. And I came out, and I said, I will come out on one condition only. Well, two. One is you give me chocolate. The other is that we're going to set up an experiment, and the experiment goes like this. I am going to produce the sounds that those people produced in my voice. And because I'm a trained phonetician and I've taken a whole course in voice quality, I can produce the different kinds of voice quality that you think might or might not be present in all those other people's voices. And we're going to look at those and we're going to use it as a model and we're going to compare it to that stuff. And you're going to look at my vocal folds and you're going to measure how open they are because I'm done with all this vague nonsense. Bert Cannon, I love Bert Cannon. If I come back in another life, I'm so marrying him. I'm telling you, he's the funniest person alive. And he just kind of went, okay. I think, you know, like many supervisors, they kind of see that 50,000 euros that they're going to get when you graduate, sort of rippling off to the horizon. Like, whatever she likes, she can get it. Chocolate's all good. So I did my experiment. Oh my goodness! And we carried out the most rigorous statistics. Oh my goodness! And my p-values were 0.00000. We're talking like 16 places. It's like, oh, significant. And everybody else had said, it doesn't matter. And I was like, yeah, it does. I want to prove it. And they said, look, you know, you're not going to come up with anything. Watch me. And I did. And I printed it out in big letters. And I walked around the department going, look. And then Monique Audis, who's my good mate, she said to me, okay, and so when you listen to the voices, can you hear any difference between them? No? So what does it mean? It's significant! So what does it mean? Yeah, I couldn't figure that one out either. So there is something in listening to people who know. There's something in listening to most of the people in the department. They had all said, you can do that stuff, but whatever comes out, you're not going to find the answers you want. Now, I was right that I trusted my instincts, and I said I can set up an experiment that will show this, show that, and that, you know, if there's anything in it, it's going to turn out a number, and it did, and the number was a good number because it had lots of zeros. The problem was they were all right. It didn't actually mean anything. It didn't mean anything in voice quality analysis, in assessment, in clinical risks. It didn't mean anything. Hi, Dan. So what is actually worth standing up for? How are we going to find that out? I think what's worth standing up for is everything you can manage. Everything you can manage. Which means that when you can't manage, you know, so when your friend comes to you and is complaining about her coke snorting, drunken, abusive boyfriend, and you want to say to her, "Oh my God, think of all the problems in Mexico just because of this." And you can't bring yourself to say it because she's your friend. She's your friend and her marriage is falling apart. And she's got a black eye. Job prospects are not any good now because she spent all her money and keeps her at home. You have to acknowledge something about yourself and or your principles or truths. When you can't manage to uphold everything that you told yourself this morning when you brushed your teeth and believed in, you might have to do something about that. Sometimes, though, you have to be prepared to judge, like Roisin. Roisin will judge me from here to eternity. If I get it wrong, she's so big-time. But I think she'll be very careful that she doesn't lose me as a friend, because she's not that kind of person. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to tell you in a way that you got the message. So sometimes you've got to judge. Sometimes your friends are doing stuff around you, and you've got to judge. And we don't like that. We actually all feel, you know, being judgmental is not a very nice quality. Look at that. I'm getting far worse. Being judgmental is not a nice quality. I'm sure you all know judgmental people. They're all a bit kind of, wait till I tell you that Hans-One here. You know, they're sitting on the back, wasn't paying attention. He missed most of the lecture. No, seriously. We all have people like that. And that's not what you want to be, but you will have to judge. You will have to see people do stuff and say, I don't think that's a cool thing. And they might be your friends. They might be the boy that you would like to ask you out. They might be all kinds of stuff. You have to be prepared to judge. But only to uphold your own truths and not to damn other people. Because that doesn't work. You don't have a right to do that. Here are some of my old truths. Look closely. Restaurants serve chips. Chips, for those of you who don't know, are fat, greasy things. They're potatoes. You deep fry them. They're not those skinny, crunchy things. Those are crisps. When I rule the world, we will have English spelling. We will not talk about chips being crisps. I used to be a chef once upon a time. And when I was learning about food, there was like this dogma. Good restaurant does not serve chips. But you know, I've had a lot of really good chips in my life. I've had to revise that one. A chef reads lists, not books. I used to believe that when I was a chef. When are you going back to college? You got a house, you got a car, you got a stack of money. Back to college. Do that whole linguistics thing. No. A chef reads lists, not books. You got to smoke 45 a day, sound like Tom Waits. Anton, do you remember Jeremy Roach? No? Jeremy Roach was a student of ours, I don't know, 100 years ago here. He was Tom Waits. He had that voice. He didn't smoke 40 cigarettes a day, and I was really disappointed. I asked him. Physicists do physics, and they come from Rathkew. What could that be about? Well, it's about a couple of things. So the first thing is that in Ireland, we've had one Nobel Prize winner in science, with loads of them in literature and humanities and all kinds of other stuff, because we're really good at that. But one of them is Ernest Walton, and together with John Cockcroft, he split the atom the first time. How about that? And he came from Rathkew. And I want you to know that, contrary to what Mr. Plaster might have told us all, you will never get a Nobel Prize in physics if you do liberal arts. He did a double degree in Trinity in maths and physics with rhetoric, philosophy, and he was later named a professor of natural and experimental philosophy. So, to that. I also married a physicist. I didn't think I would ever do that. I come from a medical family. I'm a linguist. You do stuff that you don't expect yourself to do sometimes. a lot of the time, works out. Home is bound to clash. I left Ireland. I had just the most idyllic cottage imaginable. So, you know, it was one of those places where the walls are 4 feet thick and huge big white stones and the old slates and the pretty patterns. And it was between 2 mountains, going like this. And it was about here. And there was a river that went past the house, and we'd sleep. And then I get pregnant again, like, oh no. It's got a poor abandoned child left somewhere. God, his mother doesn't love him. Oh God. God, you know, the rest of the world is bonding with their inner babies, not me. And then like he's there, you know. And like, oh, wow, cool. It's gonna work out, it's fine. And now we have 3 cats, a dog, 2 kids, a husband, it's all good, and I have room for more. Being suspicious is bad. I always thought being suspicious is bad. Then Kira, she of the great wisdom of, like, we're not here to look after you. She said, you know what? If you think something's going on, it probably is. And I used to think, that is just a stupid thing to say. But I work at UC now, and I've worked here for 10 years, 10, count them. And I've always had tutees all that time. Sometimes more, sometimes less. And let me tell you something. If I think something's going on, it usually is. But hot air, good. If you're not Dutch, it means it could have been worse. You know? I used to think, you never say that to someone. You never say that's a terrible thing to say to somebody. It's a terrible thing. But actually, so when they diagnosed my cancer, man, I'm a survivor. When they diagnosed it, and I'd gone in, had the operation, I was at home, you know.